Hey everyone, in this video we're going to cover a really important topic, data validation. It is not the sexiest thing you're ever going to do in Excel, but it is crucial to make sure that your data is usable and it's helping you make good decisions. Okay, there are several different ways to apply data validation in Excel. We're going to talk about some of the native Excel options today and then some of the cute things that I've built that really help make it easy and make it impactful and reusable. So, first, a public service announcement. You should not have many data inputs if you're designing Excel correctly. You're modeling out your workbooks. You should have minimal inputs, a whole lot of formulas, maybe a lot of queries and things in the background, all linked to source data of some sort. So you shouldn't have a whole lot of inputs, but when you do, it's crucial to make sure that they're validated. Now, the built-in data validation in Excel is not foolproof. Even when you protect things, it's pretty easy to override it. But for the most part, people are just trying to get their job done, so they're not really trying to circumvent that. But just keep in mind it's not bulletproof. Now, some of the key things that you can do with data validation are put input messages to guide users along with the title. You can even put error messages along with the title. So we're going to see a couple of those in action here. Very basic, putting an integer validation in place. So this one has an input message that says it has to be a value above 50. We put a value like 46. Excel yells at us, says, hey, you can't. You have to have it greater than 50. That's a custom error message that's put in place there. So once we put something like 55, it's happy again. Now decimals, a little different. Okay, if we try to put in 55.5 here, it's going to yell at us again because it has to be an integer. But if we put in 55.5 here, it's okay with that. And then text length, let's say we put in Jim. It says, hey, it has to be 5 to 10 characters. Okay, well, how about Jimbo? Great, it likes that. Dates, it says you must enter a date that is not between 4/1 and 9/30. So if we put in 4/30/2003, it's not going to like that. But if we put that as, let's say 3, it's okay. Time, same thing. You must enter time that's within working hours here is what we're doing with that. That works. List is really cool because you define what that list is. That can be a hard-coded list or it can be linked to some cells in Excel. We're going to cover a really cool tip on this in just a minute. So let's pick something right there. To show that list, press the Alt and the down arrow keys. Say what I'm going to put in blue there. And then lastly, you can put in any kind of formula to validate the things that you want. Now, I put a pretty simple one in here. It says you must enter a unique value. So if we try to put blue in here again, it's going to say, no, you can't do that. Kind of cool, right? So we're going to put in something else. Let's say red. Okay. Now, I want to go back to the list one because this is really helpful if you have a list of locations or people or departments or dates or whatever it is that you want to do. New Excel is going to show you those values as you type. So if I start typing in blue or red or green, you notice it shows a list and it narrows it down. It's pretty cool. Okay. If you don't have a recent version of Excel, Office 365, that might not show up. That's okay. Now, if you want to make a dynamic list, okay, what I mean, here's a list that I've put together right here. If you want to make a dynamic list that can grow as you add options to it, which is usually desirable, I'm going to show you a couple of ways to do that. Okay, one is with a macro I've got that can create a dynamic named range. Okay, so what I'm going to do is copy this name up here at the top, color list. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to run a macro called add dynamic named range. Now, what I copy to the clipboard, it's going to use that as the default here. And you can make it vertical or you can make it horizontal. It's almost always going to be vertical. That's what the V is for. So what that did is it made a range name up here, okay, that is called color list, okay, and it put in this formula. Offset, it knows where to stop and start, and it's got a count A of where the bottom is here. That's what that's doing, okay. I'm a big fan of reusing formulas like this when it might take you a minute or so to figure out what it is that you needed to do. I'm a fan of saving those, and I'll share some tips in future videos about how to do that. So what this is doing is we're going to take this, okay, we still have that in the, let's put it back in the clipboard here. We're going to change this one right here, and I'm going to use another macro called validation picker. So this has a whole bunch of validation options. I want to use L, okay, and so what we can do is say equals that. This is one way to do it. There's also another one that'll go straight to adding this step validation. Okay, so what this does now is it links to that list. Notice this is the same list we had over there. Let's say we want to add an option to that list. Okay, we're going to add gray at the very bottom here. I'm a fan of gray, especially for like home decor and stuff. It just seems to go with everything. Gray shows up. Automatic dynamic expanding list. You can do the same thing with tables if you want, but sometimes you have a basic list, you might not want a table. That's okay, right? Now, we've covered some basic things with data validation. That's more of the front end, what the user is seeing. And again, that can be circumvented pretty easily. But what if you have the need to have a required field? This doesn't really help you out a whole lot because you could have a blank and Excel's not going to yell at you. That's where this comes in. This is something I use with a lot of different macros. We're filling out values. We're going to put them in some other application. Maybe it's in their Office app. Maybe it's something else. What this is doing is validation on the fly. So notice we've got Jim here. We've got his last name. Let's say Smith. Let's say his email address is j.smith@plumbing.com or something like that. Okay. Now check this out over here. Okay. It's giving us validation on the fly. It's saying, hey, cells F, H, and I are all required. If we put in a floor here, let's say he's on floor 5 of a building or whatever it is that, the street or something like that. Okay. F goes away when we enter it. How long has he worked there? Let's say that it's 2 years. Okay. It goes away when we do it. Okay. Let's say his start date was the 30th of last year. Okay. Now, this has to be a date greater than 12/9, so it's still not valid. Well, let's put in 12/15/2023. It's now valid. Now check this out. This is doing validation on the fly as we go. Now, don't worry about how complicated this formula is. That's something I'm going to put a post out to use that. Assume that you want to leverage this like I have. But what this is doing is using conditional formatting to make it red or green if it's valid or invalid. Okay, and it is looking at all the validation of all of these different things. So the way that I've done it is I've linked it to all these cells up here. Is it required? What type is it? Is there a min and a max? So I kind of hid those away. If you want to do that, that's fine. Or you could hard code them in the formula. But this is validation on the fly, above and beyond just the validations you might see in the cells themselves, like the list here. So it makes it more powerful, guides the users. And what we're doing is we're preventing errors on the front end before somebody tries to take this to some other app or upload it or share it or whatever they're doing. In my experience, I've dealt with some really bad import, data aggregation where the errors are checked on the back end after you made all the mistakes. Wouldn't it be great to get some feedback as you go so you don't replicate those mistakes? This is how you do it. So hopefully you found this helpful. Remember, validation, very important. Prevent garbage in, garbage out. Share this with your friends. If you like this, please give us a thumbs up. You want to know how this stuff works? Give me a holler. Thanks, everybody.